This is the Uptick Newswire Stock Day podcast, sponsored by InvestorsHangout.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube to stay up to date on penny stock news and interviews, public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world, with your host, Everett Jolly.
On today's show, we have a brand new guest. He's a part of the Hemp Inc. industry and organization. We're talking about David Schmitt. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Industrial Hemp Manufacturing. He's going to bring us up to speed of the legislation of hemp and how it's come so far. Dave, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on here.
Great. Glad to be here.
You know, give my listeners a little bit of education of where you guys were maybe a couple years ago, where you're at now. I believe that Bob Crumley helped get a lot of this legislation passed for North Carolina for the hemp.
That's exactly correct. When we began the process of writing the legislation, I was asked to participate. The North Carolina Industrial Hemp Association was founded by Bob Crumley. Bob is just a great, great person. And he was aware of the fact that Bruce Perlowin, CEO of Hemp Inc., and I were in the process of building the largest hemp processing facility in the United States. So once I met with Bob and understood what it was he was trying to do, I definitely bought into it immediately. I purchased a board seat on the North Carolina Industrial Hemp Association, so I do sit on the board of directors of the NCIHA. But the NCIHA is definitely the group responsible for bringing the hemp legislation in North Carolina to a reality. You know,
the hemp is going to actually save the family small farms, isn't it?
Absolutely. We work with numerous farmers throughout the state. And it's funny, most of the interviews, I do 1-2 interviews a week with local television stations, radio stations across the country, and they all want to speak to my farmers. And they all hear the same dadgum thing, that, you know, the farmers in North Carolina prospered with tobacco. And now that tobacco continues, the tobacco production and processing continues to shift to Asia, it's just not what it once was. So we've got to come up with different crops for the farmers in the state to grow, to be able to feed their young'uns and to be able to prosper and invest in new equipment and infrastructure. And we definitely believe, in all the farmers that IHM works with, we believe that hemp is that crop.
Well, take me through the process, if you will, Dave. I know you're the Chief Operating Officer of Industrial Hemp Manufacturing, which you guys are like a subsidiary of Hemp Inc. So if I'm a farmer, I grow the hemp, do I sell it to you guys? Tell me the process and how does that come to fruition, actually putting money on the books and money in farmers' hands?
Well, we sit down the first of every year, once Bruce and I determine how many acres we're going to need of each particular cultivar, and we sit down with the farmers, and whether they want to grow 10 acres or 1,000 acres, we contract with the farmer to purchase their crop. So they know that when they harvest it, that there's a buyer for it. It's unlike, any of the commodities, corn,
right,
wheat, beans. They know that they can unload them. What they don't know is what it's going to bring. Is soybeans going to be at $9 a bushel, or is it going to be at $4 a bushel?
Exactly.
They know up front what their income is going to be when they bring that crop to harvest.
My guest today is David Schmitt. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Industrial Hemp Manufacturing. They're a division of Hemp Inc., trade on the OTC markets, HEMP. Well, let me ask you this. If I had 5 acres of corn, considered 5 acres of hemp, what is it going for? How's it measured? Like, is it measured by pound? Is it measured by bushel? What's the market value there?
Well, let's look at beans. I'm not familiar with it. Most of the corn is grown in the Midwest, Illinois,
right,
Iowa, Kansas. There's a little bit grown out here, but they do a fair amount of soybeans out here. And what I can tell you, I was just with some farmers this weekend at our Hemp Inc. University, the educational symposium that we do bi-monthly. I was talking to farmers about their income off soybeans this year, and they said pricing was actually pretty good this year because the harvest in Brazil was a little low. but they got about between $9, $9.50 a bushel, and their average yield is around 40 bushels an acre. Sometimes it's a lot higher, sometimes it's a lot lower. So at $40 a bushel, you're looking at $360. It was their gross revenue off of that. Now, when we look at growing industrial hemp, this is a CBD type cultivar that is, if they're growing something that is in the 18 to 20% range, that price last fall was $35 a pound. Typically, we plant about 1,500 plants per acre, and our yield is usually right at a pound per plant, or maybe just a little bit higher, but let's say it's a pound. So you've got 1,500 pounds per acre at $35 a pound. You're looking at their gross revenue for that acre is $52,000 to $500. Quite a drastic difference from $360 for that same acre planted in soybeans.
Wow. Are we in the first inning of this hemp revolution industrial manufacturing part?
It is in North Carolina. This was our first year of growing, and there were several legalities that prevented us from getting our crop in the ground when we needed to, the latter part of April, first part of May. Nobody up here in North Carolina got their crop in much before the 4th of July weekend because of the legalities we had with the DEA and other government agencies. But we finally had the green light the 1st of July. So nobody did great this year. The one thing we did was we learned an awful lot. So I think 2018 is going to be a great year for the farmers, the hemp farmers in North Carolina. And it's my belief that by 2020, North Carolina will definitely lead the nation in industrial hemp production. There's no doubt in my mind, because there's no infrastructure anywhere in this country. Nobody's invested $20 million in a manufacturing facility like we have. Right. Bruce is a visionary. He does a great job of looking into the future, and we built the infrastructure here. I mean, we built a $20 million factory before industrial hemp was legal. But we knew what a lot of other folks did not know, that we were working on the legislation. We honestly believed that it would definitely pass. And it took me 3 years to build this factory.
So now that you guys have the factory built and you have the hemp coming in, where do we go from here?
Well, we currently in this facility, we take the hemp stalk, which is typically a byproduct because nobody knows what to do with it.
Exactly.
We have one of the largest decortication systems on the planet. There's only 5 this size in the world. There's 2 in South Africa, there's 2 in France, and the one here just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, in Spring Hope. We've got the 5th. And so we have the ability to decorticate it, sell the fiber to the auto industry, the textile industry, and then the herd, or the core of the plant, is what I make our lost circulation materials out of for the gas and oil drilling industry. So between the fiber, the LCMs, we have a supercritical CO2 extraction unit. So we've been, since last August, we've been making the cannabis oils. Whole hemp plant extract is what we have to label it today. I mean, we can't legally label it CBD oil.
Right.
So I mean, we're continuing to expand. We've got the infrastructure in place. We're looking at putting in at least 2 more CBD extraction units in the first quarter of next year.
Well, it seems like you guys' stock price is very undervalued at just a tad bit under 2 cents. Can you extrapolate anything from the hemp coming in and where your stock price is at and where we could possibly be in 2018?
Oh, I think the stock price, as of this morning, we're exactly 2 cents a share. I think a year from now, those numbers could be, well, they will be much, much higher. We've just positioned ourselves to start generating revenue the first quarter of next year. We've got infrastructure in the Permian Basin in Texas to start distributing our lost circulation materials there. We'll begin distributing the whole hemp plant extract first quarter of next year. So it's just, revenue is what will drive that stock price. And I think that we're looking at very, very substantial revenue in 2018.
David Schmitt has been our guest today. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Industrial Hemp Manufacturing. They're a subsidiary of Hemp Inc., trading on the OTC markets, HEMP. Dave, we're running out of time here. In closing, is there anything that we didn't get a chance to touch upon that you would like to get out there to my listeners?
No, I think, other than industrial hemp has a very, very bright future in the United States, and it's our goal to help the small family farm survive and prosper. And I think we're well on our way to making that become a reality.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, bringing us up to date. I hope that you come back on the show in about 40 days and give us an update.
That's great. I sure appreciate it, y'all. Y'all have a nice day.
This program is entirely sponsored and produced by Uptick Newswire, LLC, which is responsible for the content. The opinions and information provided on this program are those of the guests and those of the respective companies they represent, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Uptick Newswire. Uptick Newswire encourages all listeners of this program to do their due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that will work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional. The guests of this program may have paid for its distribution and are not directly affiliated with Uptick Newswire or this station.